Alex Reid, Business Development Manager from the Energy Technology Partnership. Alex,
hello.
How are you this afternoon?
I'm very well, Dan. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to drop in and just
Fantastic.
give everyone a quick chance to find out a little bit what we're doing at ETP, and particularly in the context of a funding call that we've just announced. I will share my screen if I can.
Yep.
And just give me, you cannot share. Hopefully I can share now, can I? That's a lot better, right? Okay, let's see how that works. Let me just go into full mode here. Right, can everybody see the screen? Is that okay? Give me an affirmative nod.
Yep.
Dan, yeah, all good. Okay, so I'll be brief and hopefully reasonably brilliant. We have just a bit of background for those of you who are not so familiar with who ETP are. We are very much in the business of building collaborations between industry and academia, and specifically supporting innovators and SMEs and helping them to take forward their innovations and ultimately find the funding and also the support from a technical expertise standpoint. And we do that in collaboration with all of the universities you see on the screen there. I think there's 13 of them, and will shortly be a 14th because Stirling University are also joining the partnership as well.
Sorry, Alex, we can only see your first slide, so I'm not sure.
Oh, right, I'll tell you what it is. Sorry what it is, Dan. Let me just do a quick come out of that. I think what's happened, let me just stop sharing for just 2 quick secs and come back in, see if that works a bit better, and see if that works a bit better. Right, how's that? If I just go forward now, can you see that? Right, okay, yeah, just the wrong option in terms of screen share. So, okay, so these are the universities that we partner with. There's 13 of them. Shortly we have 14th, Stirling University joining us as well. And ultimately they play a very important part in what we do, because ultimately to build the collaborations and move forward innovations, we need to tap into that network of expertise that exists across all of the academic community. And I think it's fair to say through the lens of mobility, there is a lot of capability when we look across all the universities. And the challenge, but also the opportunity, is making sure we're tapping into that expertise and really bringing it to bear so that they help the businesses and organizations who are at the forefront of innovation to really take them through to commercialization. Okay, so we're involved across a whole spectrum of energy themes, as you can see on the screen there. So although today is very much mobility, I think it's also worth remembering that transport mobility cuts across other areas of the energy sector as well. And so therefore, when it comes to innovation, it's also important to make sure that we're trying to connect the dots, so to speak, between those who are at the heart of mobility, but also those who are working in other themes, thematic areas such as solar or wind, for example, and how that can support and move forwards mobility-driven innovations. Okay, so turning to the funding call itself, we offer funding of up to 10K, and that's with a 30% in-kind or cash contribution from the SME. And that 10K, as I'll come to in a sec, is very much about helping to move forward innovations through the initial steps from conception. So, of course, there are much bigger sums of funding out there, and I think we tend to know where they come from, and likes of UKRI, Innovate UK, but we shouldn't forget that getting started and moving an idea forward towards prototype sometimes requires smaller sums of funding, and that's where ETP can come in. So if you are out there and you have an idea and you're starting to take it towards prototype, but what you really need is that initial sum of funding, and what you will also benefit from is access to academic support, then again, that's where ETP can come in and support. So going through the process, once the applications have come in, we do tend to turn them around quite quickly. So you don't have to wait for ages until you get a yes or no in terms of knowing whether to proceed or not. And key thing is that the BDM, that's me from a mobility standpoint, is there to handhold you along the process as well. So that includes completing the application forms, because as always, there's a level of detail that we ask for when you are submitting your application. Okay, so in terms of the scope of the call, just briefly, they obviously have to be zero emission focused, and we're looking right across the spectrum when it comes to vehicles. Now in Scotland, there's a real opportunity around heavy duty cycle vehicles, and I'm sure you've been talking about that already. But in the context of this call, we're open to ideas coming across the board from the smaller vehicles, including active, all the way through to the larger vehicles as well. And that includes components and subsystems. We're also absolutely interested in retrofitting technologies, because let's not forget that there are large fleets of vehicles out there that are still going to be out on the roads or off the roads and operating for quite a period of time yet. So any way that they can be retrofitted to reduce their carbon emissions is also going to be attractive. So any ideas, innovations in that area, very much welcome. And also improving the availability and performance of the infrastructure. Again, that's very important, because it's not just about the vehicles, it is very much, again, about the maintenance and servicing of them. And anything fuel related, again, we're interested in. And anything to do with heating and cooling, also interested in, because these all have their part to play in terms of reducing emissions. And also, more on the software side, anything that helps to optimize the movement of passenger and goods vehicles in urban or rural areas, again, very much in scope for the call. As far as eligibility goes, well, you kind of have to be a Scottish SME. So if you're operating outside Scotland, but you have plans to set up base in Scotland, then of course, let's have that conversation. But primarily, this call is focused on SMEs that are based in Scotland. Again, should really be focused on low carbon projects that can be commercializable at some point in the future. There has to be obviously innovation and an element of knowledge exchange between the business, the SME, the innovator, and academia. As I've touched on already, we do ask for either an in-kind or cash contribution of 30%. And just to reinforce that point, it will be done hand in hand with a university partner. And we at ETP would help with that process of finding the relevant and most appropriate university partner. Okay, how to apply? I think hopefully a link's going to go into the chat very shortly. What we're only asking for right this second now is just expressions of interest. So that really just needs to be very brief, outlining the project idea that you have, who it's targeting, how it will help, how the funding will help in terms of moving the idea forward, and ultimately how it will also support the Scottish Government in helping to achieve net zero carbon emissions for the transport sector. So yes, if this is of interest to you, then please go ahead and submit the EOI. That ultimately they'll come through to myself, and then it's for me to follow through and have the next conversation with you. Closing date, you've got a little bit of time, 29th of October, but don't leave it to the last minute. By all means, get them in sooner, because that way we can get the conversation moving forward. And finally, if you have any questions, then there's my email address. So feel free to get in touch, and happy to just address any specifics you might have related to this. I think that's it. So there's the contact details again, got the website address, and yeah, again, just please reach out if you have any questions. And that's pretty much it, Dan.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Alex. And I believe we have Transport Scotland to thank for that funding. Is that right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's not coming out of my pocket, I hasten to add. If only I had all that money. No, it's not. Of course it is. It's coming from Transport Scotland. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because they will be part of the evaluation process, understandably. And what it also means is that the more interest we can get in this call, and please, again, take this as an opportunity just to get your idea out on the table. I mean, don't be shy in terms of, reluctance around, oh, this idea might not be relevant. Let's get them out there, because the more we understand who's got the ideas and what the ideas are, the more then we can discuss them, get Transport Scotland involved, and then start to make some decisions about the ones that are really most appropriate to move forward and give funding to.
Great, fantastic. It's great to hear there's that flexibility involved there.